This is a Guide Your Light network production, creating podcasts with purpose.
The research shows that when we are lacking sleep, even for one night, our stress hormone cortisol can increase by up to 37%.
Welcome to the Things You Can't Unhear podcast. I'm your host, Maritza Barone. Get ready to hear moments that will help you to see the world differently and inspire you to become the happiest, healthiest, and kindest version of you.
When we talk about well-being, we very often jump to the thought of food or exercise or even our mindset. But one of the most overlooked pillars of health, and one that affects nearly everything else, is sleep. Sleep isn't just about resting. When we think about what happens when we sleep, it's when our bodies repair themselves, our minds get a reset, and our emotions can regulate. Yet there are so many of us that are struggling with it, struggling to get to sleep, struggling to stay asleep. So many people are saying that they wake up at 3 o'clock every morning with their minds racing, or people just feeling exhausted even though they've spent 8 hours in bed because the quality of sleep that they've been having isn't quite right. So today on the show, I have invited one of Australia's leading sleep experts, Olivia Arezzolo, to talk to us about how we can implement a sleep plan into our lives. We plan so many other elements of our lives, but how many of us actually implement a sleep plan? So if you're one of those people who struggles to fall asleep, stay asleep, and feel rested during the day, make sure you tune into this very important episode where Olivia gives us some fascinating tools and routines that might just change the way you sleep and live. And grab a piece of paper because Olivia will be sharing 4 things we can all do before bed to wind down properly and set ourselves up for a truly restorative night's sleep. And just before we jump in, don't forget, hit the subscribe button on the show so that we can keep creating this content that comes straight to you for free. Welcome, Olivia Arezzolo, to the Things You Can't Unhear podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Maritza.
I love it. You know what, 6.5 years in, and I've never had a sleep expert on the show before. And I think that's my bad, actually, because sleep is one of the most important things relating to our health, isn't it?
I would definitely agree that sleep is pretty important when it comes to your health, well-being, mental health, physical health, emotional health, immunity. Yeah, it's just remotely important.
Yes. So I'm glad you're here. You're one of Australia's leading sleep experts. What did how much sleep did Olivia have last night?
I had a good quality sleep last night. It was a bit more interesting than usual, and I'm sure many of your listeners would resonate. So I had an event, and then I had an early morning call. So my event finished around 10 p.m. And so I got into bed around 11, and I had a call with the US at 6 a.m.
Okay, so I'm like the fingers are out trying to do the maths on how many hours sleep that
Yeah.
was.
So I think
So,
it was just under 7.
yeah.
And I did notice that earlier today I was feeling much more foggy than usual, and my brain just wasn't as sharp. So to support that, I did a deep meditation, and I'm feeling back to my bright self.
Yeah, that's really good to know, actually, and such a great point to start on is, we can catch up if every night isn't the supposedly the amazing great 8 hours of sleep that we need to get every single night. There are ways that we can regenerate the fresh feeling that we're all craving, and
100%.
removing the fogginess and the heavy eyelids by doing these techniques, such as you mentioned, meditation. I find that such a hack, such a great hack, to be honest, when I'm feeling exhausted, is like closing the eyes for 15 minutes, but not having a nap is just meditating. It recharges the body in a different way, doesn't it?
100%. It's one of the best forms of non-sleep deep rest we can have. It helps align the brainwaves into a synchronized rhythm, and that is one of the results of sleep as well. But basically, when you are meditating, you go into a calmer state called theta, and that helps you feel calm, centered, helps reduce our stress load. And that's another function of sleep. So, in the absence of getting enough hours and the quality of sleep that you like, having a, 10-minute, 15-minute, 20-minute meditation is something that I would highly recommend. And I'm sure that anyone who meditates would emphasize the benefits as well.
So would you say that 8 hours is the key number still, in your opinion?
So, in terms of the hours of sleep we need, it depends on your sleep chronotype. Now, sleep chronotype sounds really scientific and complicated, but everyone knows the terms morning lark and night owl. It is
Mm.
just a modernized version of that, but there's also a third category. And so this is actually what I wrote my book about, so I'm quite well versed in it. There is the morning lark, that is a lion. There's somebody who likes to rise early and sleep early. They need 7 hours of sleep. That's me.
Mm.
There's then somebody at the other end of the spectrum who is a night owl. They are a wolf and they like to sleep late and go to bed late. Now, they need 8 hours, which sounds reasonable enough. But the thing is that they usually wouldn't feel tired until around 12, 1 a.m. And for most of us, that means that we are only going to be getting 6 or 7 hours by the time you need to get up for the day's activities. So, wolves, those that have the late chronotype, are often really sleep deprived and don't get their 8 hours. And then you've got bears, who are the middle category, who are neither early nor late to rise. But a real defining trait of a bear is somebody that needs lots and lots of sleep. And we know these people because they just spend their weekends resting and they're just always keen for a little bit extra sleep. They need 9 hours of sleep. And that again is why they often they often crave that extra sleep, because few people in our, modern day society will actually allocate 9 hours of sleep each night. And so they find that most of the time they are sleep deprived and wanting to catch up on that sleep.
I've got two bears in my house, two teenage bears who just love to sleep in. But how do we know what type we are? I mean, I feel like I know what type I am just by hearing what you explained out of those options. But is there a way of identifying it? And are we just gifted this type of sleep pattern as
Yeah.
we're born in our DNA?
Really great questions for sure. So, in terms of what leads to us having a particular type, 50% is genetics and 50% is our environment.
Mm.
So inherently, we will always prefer to either rise early or rise late. Inherently, that is you, but that can be influenced by your environment. And so, for example, if you are working late, you will find that even on nights that you are not working, you'll probably go to bed quite late because the brain gets into a rhythm and an expectation that you are alert late at night. Similarly, if you are somebody who is trying to join the, 5 a.m. club, you will find that although you may not necessarily have that inherent preference, you can gear yourself towards an earlier rise time.
Yeah, I would definitely have to agree with that. I lived in Melbourne most of my life, and as many people know, Melbourne is colder and darker in winter, and especially. And then I've now moved further north. I live on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, and automatically I have become a morning person. And in Melbourne, I would definitely not have defined myself as a morning person. I was sleeping in until the sun came up, and sometimes the sun doesn't come up until 8 o'clock in the morning in winter. So here on the Sunshine Coast, if I'm not up and going by 6:30, and that's in winter, so it's way earlier in summer, then I know something's wrong with me.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
definitely environment is a huge factor, and weather, I feel. Is there
Totally.
something different in the circadian rhythm that happens when we're in sort of lighter environments?
Yeah, yeah. I was just about to say a big factor that would be helping you get up earlier would be light. So light is our primary Zeitgeber, which means primary factor to control the circadian rhythm. So if there's one factor that's going to help you get up earlier, the most impactful is light. It also is darker earlier up north because you even in daylight savings when you don't honor that daylight savings, you know, it's it's darker earlier and lighter earlier.
Hence why everyone goes to bed at about 8 o'clock, right?
Exactly right, exactly
Okay.
right. And so, you look at the circadian rhythm, the circadian cycles. Light governed our cycles were in the absence of anything else. From millennia ago, we knew that when it is light outside, our body suppresses melatonin, our keep sleepiness hormone. It increases levels of awakening hormones such as cortisol, such as serotonin, such as dopamine.
Mm.
So, serotonin is known as the happiness hormone. It's also an awakening hormone. The more serotonin we have, the more alert we feel, the happier we feel. The sun helps us produce serotonin, right? The sun also increases cortisol. Cortisol has got a bit of a bad rap, but in moderation, it's actually really helpful. It helps us feel awake and alert. That is also produced by sunlight. And then sunlight also suppresses melatonin, that sleepiness hormone that will otherwise make us feel tired. So, this is a really good takeaway for anyone who is feeling like they want to get up earlier. Control light. Block it out in the evening earlier and expose yourself to bright sunlight as early as possible. If you can see sunrise, this is ideal for your circadian cycle because it's the exact spectrum of light that is in sunlight that is ideal to mediate our circadian rhythm. Now, that is ideal for natural sunlight. And so you think, okay, does that mean that, I can sit on my phone in bed and that is going to have that same effect, right? Light, right? The thing is that LED lights don't support that same hormone profile. So what happens is you have higher levels of cortisol, which is that stress hormone, and lower levels of serotonin, that happiness hormone. So if you are waking yourself up using a phone rather than natural sunlight, chances are you're going to feel more stressed and more anxious simply from light. And
Mm.
that's not to say anything about the impact of social media.
Which I'm sure we're gonna get to in a moment.
Correct, correct.
Yes,
Which
yes.
then, in terms of clinical research, has been also demonstrated to increase, cortisol and stress levels as well.
I think the dream for me anyway is to just wake up when the sun comes up. That's like the dream. You have the blinds slightly open, the flicker of sun wakes you up, but that's not always the case, is it? Like sometimes we have to get up a couple of hours before the sun rises, and head off to work, especially if we're living in darker environments over winter and things like that. So how do we, I suppose, combat that issue?
Yeah. It's a great question. So there are what are called sunrise alarm clocks, and they have a light spectrum which mimics sunlight.
Oh, wow.
There are also light therapy glasses, which exactly the same. They mimic sunlight. So that's really helpful if you are a shift worker or maybe you just have a insanely early rise time. Maybe you're a baker or you're a driver or, you're a nurse or you've got two
Mm.
children that wake up at the crack of dawn before it is even bright outside.
Yes. Yes, I remember those days. Actually, new tech is going to be a really interesting thing that I want to touch on as well. But I want to talk about, the sleep routine and how to sort of like let's start from the nighttime, I suppose. How do we equip ourselves from the time we go to bed or even like before that, I'm thinking, to get into a routine that's going to give us the best chance of going to sleep, number one, and staying asleep, number two. I hear so many people say, I can get to sleep easily, but I can't stay asleep. I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. All right. So, firstly, let's start with how we can set ourselves up for the ideal sleep, in your opinion.
We can share this. Okay, so I think the most important thing to ask yourself is, in terms of your 3 a.m. wakings, though, what is the root cause? Because it might be from menopause, it might be from those hormonal fluctuations that are happening throughout your evening, that when cortisol usually rises around 3 a.m., if you have an elevated levels of cortisol, which may happen due to, stress, it may happen due to menopause, it may happen due to excessive blue light before bed. Okay, if that is waking you up, then understanding that as a driver and then mediating that is really, really important. Also, temperature rises alongside cortisol rising, right? So, again, if you have menopause, for example, you're already going to be having hot flashes at any given point. But the chances are, when the body naturally rises around 3 a.m. and thereafter, you're more likely to experience those hot flashes in the later part of the night. So then you say, okay, so if that's what's causing my 3 a.m. wakings, 4 a.m. wakings, 5 a.m. wakings, then let's address that root cause. So I think that's a really good pre-frame, but we can come at it from two angles. What is like the recommended bedtime routine for somebody who wants to reduce nighttime wakings, reduce 3 a.m. wakings? And then we'll have like a special category for our menopausal women.
Yeah, great idea.
So when it comes to people, your listeners, your community wanting to fall asleep, stay asleep, get deeper sleep, this is a 4-step bedtime routine that I recommend. From 9:30 or 1 hour before bed, block out blue light. Remember how we were saying that light is our primary Zeitgeber, primary factor to control the circadian rhythm? So that means it is super, super important, like imperative, to block out blue light after 9:30 or 1 hour before bed.
When you say blue light, what do you mean by that?
So blue light is the spectrum of light that is emitted from phones, TVs, laptops, Kindles, ceiling lights, lamps. Now, it's not blue, but it's that white. It appears white, but what it does is that's the spectrum of light that specifically impacts melatonin, the sleepiness hormone that we need to produce that enables us to feel tired. So, how do you block out blue light? Blue light blocking glasses. Now, make sure that if you opt for those, you opt for the red lens or the orange lens. So many people say, oh, I've got digital readers or I've got, blue light filter in my glasses. Now, that is all good and well for the daytime, but that is only blocking out 40 to 50% of blue light. And in the evening, you need to block out 100% of blue light.
So the red lens or an orange lens, you said, sort of like Elton John style.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
You'll get some interesting comments. Personal experience.
All right. So you just mentioned lamps as well. And I would have thought lamps would have been like a soft light that we could have on that wouldn't be blue light. Am I wrong?
So there are light globes that are blue light free. And also, when you have more of an orange tinge in your light, that's probably has less blue light. But for best case scenario, best results here, just get the night lights that you would use for the kids' rooms, use them in your room, use
Mm,
them in the kitchen. After 9:30, switch off all of the regular lights and use them for your light sources. That's going to be the safest way that your body is not exposed to that sleep suppressive blue light.
And candlelight, what about candlelight?
Candlelight is blue light free.
Yeah, perfect, and that's beautiful to sort of have your last hour of your last waking hour for the night, um,
100%.
candlelight. All right, that's step 1.
That's step one. That's step one. Then you want to have an evening shower. Now, this also helps your body produce melatonin, that key sleepiness hormone. So, when our body experiences a decline, a 1 degree decline in core body temperature, this catalyzes melatonin, that all important sleepiness hormone. Now, does that mean you have to have a cool shower? No, it does not. What it means is when your body moves from having a warm shower into a cool bathroom, what happens? You get cold. This reminds the body, oh, time to produce melatonin. So you naturally feel more tired.
So you're saying it's good to be cold before you go to bed, not hot? Because I have these beautiful long warm showers, and which you said was a good thing, and then come out you're cold, and then I take the dog for a wee outside, and it's fresh at the moment. So I'm like, okay, I'm ticking all the boxes. I'm feeling good about myself right now. But you're saying ultimately that it's good to sort of cool yourself down for a short moment before you jump into bed.
100%. Was actually good to stay cool through the night as well.
Mm.
Everyone would understand that when you are in winter, you might sleep better. On those stinking hot nights, it's really difficult to sleep. Women going through menopause who are waking up with hot flashes, really difficult to sleep. When your body overheats, this prevents the production of melatonin. Now, melatonin, sure, you need it to fall asleep, but it also needs to remain relatively high through the night to stay asleep, which is
Mm.
why it is so critical to maintain that cool core body temperature through the night, which is why that, in terms of sleeping in a cool room, the scientific research says the optimal temperature for sleep is 18 degrees.
I was
Now,
about to ask you.
so 18 degrees is cold. Like, that requires a blanket, but that is what is the research has said. And so, that is super, super important, again, for our menopausal women, because without that cooling, you are likely to overheat and likely to wake up really sweaty and unable to get back to sleep.
I think women and men are very different too. I know it's definitely the case in my household. My husband's never cold, and I'm always cold. And I think him hearing the fact that 18 degrees would be the ideal temperature, he'd be pretty happy with that. And I'm like, absolutely not, I'm freezing. So I would be taking that hot water bottles to bed, or, trying to balance out the fact that he's boiling hot and I'm freezing cold in the same room. But yeah, what I'm hearing now is that heat isn't a great thing. What about like hot water? What about like electric blankets, for example? Like a complete no-no in your eyes?
Yeah, in terms of what the research says, they're definitely not supported. From anecdotal experience, I know that if I've got a cozy electric blanket on, I feel super, super dozy.
Mm,
But there is a method and a reason behind that. So basically, when you're heating up the body, and this is again what happens in the shower, it actually contributes to that sense of fatigue because your body has to work harder than normal to maintain a stable and normal core body temperature. So
mm.
that's why when you're, in a warm environment, you tend to become dozy, relaxed, very sleepy, right? Because your body's working its absolute butt off just trying to maintain your normal, stable core body temperature.
Yeah, it's so interesting. All right, so we've
That's
got
step
blue
two.
light. Yep, blue light, temperature. What's number 3?
Number three is to have a sleep tea and natural sleep supplements.
Yep.
Now, when I say natural sleep supplements, I'm not talking about melatonin. Although it is natural, the research doesn't support its long-term benefits for sleep and doesn't support its ability to not disrupt our other hormones. So there was research not on melatonin, but research on testosterone, endogenous testosterone, which was artificially taken by a group. And over time, what they found is if they took this longer than 6 weeks, that it impaired the natural testosterone production, right?
Mm.
And that is the theory of why people should not take melatonin for any longer than 1 month.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. So in terms of the science, 1 month is long term. Now, that's pretty alarming because a lot of people are taking it way longer than 1 month. It is often the go-to from a lot of GPs and pharmacists and chemists. So, as an alternative to melatonin, one of the best natural sleep supplements is magnesium glycinate. Magnesium as a whole has been found in countless clinical trials to reduce levels of insomnia, to reduce anxiety. And in terms of reducing anxiety, to the extent of like 31% over 6 weeks. Now,
Mm.
that is super, super helpful for anyone waking through the night or waking around 3 a.m. Because although you may not feel you're anxious, a hyperactive nervous system is demonstrating anxiety by those nighttime wakings,
Mm. That's very
right?
true.
So, in order to balance out your hormones, in order to balance out your sleep cycles, having natural sleep supplements is a remedy for that.
Mm.
And this is why I'm such a strong advocate of it. It's like if you have a cold, you take more vitamin C because your body is like, hey, I need, nutrients, right? Very similarly, if your sleep is off, hey, what are some of the nutrients? What are some of the natural compounds that can help rebalance that? Because your nervous system is crying out that there is an imbalance,
Mm.
right? So magnesium glycinate is magnesium glycinate, magnesium chelate. These are ones I recommend. In addition to that, there are so many other herbal compounds. L-theanine that is found in green tea, black tea, matcha, that helps calm the nervous system as well. This is why you can have a tea and although it's got caffeine, you feel also still calm compared to a coffee which has no L-theanine and you feel super jacked super soon. It's like full of energy right away, right? And so having L-theanine, you can have it in a supplement or you can just have tea opposed to coffee. That is going to support you getting deeper quality sleep.
But not in the evening having green
No,
tea.
no, no,
No.
no, no,
No.
no, no. But just, as your caffeine source, if you were looking for optimal sleep and you're wanting to increase levels of L-theanine, you could have it as your morning caffeine, or you can very easily have it in a supplement.
Yeah, interesting. And so you did mention a sleepy tea or
Yeah.
sleep type of tea to have before bed. Do you have any favorites or what ingredients should we be looking for when we're looking for a sleepy tea?
Absolutely. So, ingredients, and these can be found in supplements as well. But for your sleep tea, chamomile, it's the hero sleep tea for a reason. It acts like a sedative without being over sedative for the body. And so it is one of the best natural compounds that you can use. It also is just light, easy to digest, and tastes really nice. Lavender also can be found in a lot of sleep teas. A lot of people use lavender in terms of their, diffusing it, that's also helpful. But if you take it in a supplement form, you can have a more controlled level of that. And there's been research that's found, like on a supplement level, that so over the course of 6 weeks, they compared the effectivity of lavender capsules versus a benzodiazepine, which is a sleeping pill, right? And they found that over 6 weeks, lavender reduced anxiety by 45%. Over 6 weeks, benzodiazepines, sleeping pills, reduced anxiety by 46%.
Mm.
This means that the researchers concluded that they were comparable in their effect on anxiety. And why is this so important? Because you cannot take sleeping pills without that compromising your sleep, your energy, your mental clarity. Can you take lavender long term? Yes.
Mm, very true. And the only one bad thing I'd say with having a herbal tea before bed is the need to get up and having
Yes.
to do a wee in the middle of the night, which it
Yes.
happens every single time, and then
Yes. If
disrupting your sleep.
you find that you needing to wake up through the night to use the bathroom a lot, one, helping your nervous system calm down before bed is going to be an antidote to that, because stress is a bladder irritant, and also caffeine is a bladder irritant.
Mm,
So if you are having lots and lots of coffee, even if it's early in the day, then you're going to be hyperactivating your bladder. And so in the evening, you're more likely to need to use the bathroom all the time.
mm. Interesting. Oh, I didn't realize that. That makes complete sense as well. All right. So I feel like I'm doing pretty well with myself right now. I'm quite happy. But what's number 4?
Number 4 is to have 30 minutes of tech-free time.
Mm,
Now, sure, you can block out blue light, from 1 hour. And then if you need to, you need to unwind watching TV, and the idea of, not doing this in the last, hour before bed grinds your gears, then okay, I'll give you a pass. In the half an hour, though, directly before bed, so important to stay off technology. And this loops back to what we were saying about social media increasing our stress levels, right? Because when you are using social media in the 30 minutes before bed, there's research that shows that you are 62% more likely to wake through the night. Now, given that waking through the night is the most common problem that I hear, and you mentioned it before, we don't want to encourage ourselves or give ourselves more triggers to wake up through the night. Okay. Social media and phones and TVs, although they don't feel engaging, they actually are. So the research also shows that they delay sleep time. And how many times, I know even for me personally, I'll be sitting on the couch, just one more reel, just
mm.
one more reel. And then all of a sudden, it's midnight and you're thinking, oh my God, why did I just spend the last hour? I should have been in bed, right?
Bloody addictive technology.
It
Damn
is.
it.
And you look at a lot of people say, "Oh yeah, but I've got night mode on Apple." Okay. Night mode in clinical research has only shown to make a 4% difference in your melatonin profile. So it's not really that effective. But also think about this. Why would Apple make a function that keeps you off your phone?
Mm.
What
I mean,
what
because
why would
they
why would
haven't
they do
shown to be
that?
doing that at all with
Why would
anything else.
Why would they do that? That makes no sense. Apple's job is to keep you on your phone. They might make a marketing campaign very appealing to demonstrate that they're helping you sleep better. But that would make no sense from a business perspective for one of the global businesses in the world, one of the biggest businesses in the world, to help their users avoid using it.
Yeah, true. Food for thought there.
Right?
Speaking of food,
Yeah.
uh, what should our food routine be before bed? And should we stop eating a number of hours before we try and get some sleep?
3 hours before bed should be the cutoff time, please.
3 hours.
That allows your body time to digest food. Digesting food is a really, really active process. It takes about 10% of our total energy needs. So basically, when your body's digesting, it's not enabling deep quality sleep. There was also a research paper that found this exact same meal eaten 1 hour before bed versus 4 hours before bed. Participants took 47% longer to fall asleep when they ate the meal 1 hour before bed
Mm,
compared
makes
to 4 hours. So it's really, really important to have that cutoff time in the evening if you are like super, super hungry. Like even me last night, I went to my event. It was really early. And then I got home and I was like, I am so hungry right now. And I was like, okay, I actually need to have some little snack because otherwise I'm going to be in bed. My stomach's going to be really unhappy and I'm just going to get up later. So what I had was a protein smoothie. Now, it doesn't require chewing, which requires less digestion, which requires less effort. It's high in protein. Protein is the building block of melatonin, and protein also helps stabilize blood sugar, which can be thrown off when you have high stress levels. Now, remember that for anyone who is waking at 3 a.m. slash has high stress levels, having a protein rich snack before bed, super, super beneficial. It's going to help keep you satiated. Also, it's going to help stabilize your blood sugar levels, which may help support you not waking through the night.
mm. All right. What about alcohol? Because we all know if you have a drink, you're just not getting the quality of sleep. Even if it's a glass of wine, I've found as I've gotten older as well, like even one glass of red wine, for example, will really affect the quality of the sleep that I have.
Mm.
There's probably no getting around that at all, is there?
Okay, so yes, one alcohol does have a massive impact on sleep. And as you experience, even just one glass, this has been found to compromise sleep by 9%. Moderate drinking, three to four glasses, 24% compromising your sleep quality. Heavy drinking, which is anything over 5 glasses, which for a lot of people is not what they would consider heavy, especially if you've had a long lunch or a big dinner, that will compromise your sleep quality by 39%. Now, it's really important to know that what it compromises and the impact this has on you. So, alcohol suppresses REM sleep. REM sleep is the primary deep sleep phase that is after 3 a.m. So 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m. wakings, if this is you when you're having a glass of wine or two before bed, there's a direct relationship there. Um, Alcohol also contributes to the rebound effect. Now, because it is a depressant, in order to rebound to normal, to homeostasis, the body has to have a spike in our awakening hormones like cortisol. And so again, if you are finding that you are waking through the night or just sleeping lightly, tossing, turning, and you're having a glass or two before bed, there's a reason. In terms of REM sleep, why we need it, what it does. So it's really important for mental clarity, memory formation, and emotional balance. So, and I'll testify to this. If I've had a few drinks before bed or in the evening, I'll wake up the next day and I'm foggy, can't remember anything. Everything annoys me. I am just annoyed all the time. And you say, oh, yeah, it's because you're hungover. Well, sure, that's part of it. But also, it's because your body hasn't been able to have enough REM sleep. And so you haven't had that brain rejuvenation process that would usually occur specifically because you've drank before bed. So how do you get around this then? Because I like strategies. We all like strategies. And, I'll agree. I enjoy alcohol. I do. It's nice. So what would I recommend? Best results, have a 0 blood alcohol level when you are going to bed.
Clearing as much alcohol out of your system before you're trying to get sleep, and not having 15 cocktails before your head hits the pillow.
And in terms of the cocktails, the espresso martini, that is by far the worst drink that you can consume for your sleep.
It always amazes me when people are out drinking espresso martini one after the other. And I'm like, it's midnight and you've just had 4 coffees.
Which
How on
which
earth
yeah,
are
yeah,
you
yeah.
getting to sleep tonight?
They're usually not, no.
Feeling tired is just a horrible feeling, but how do we, like, what are some other repercussions of not getting enough sleep? What is it actually doing to our body when we're not consistently getting the right amount of sleep?
One of the most important things to consider when it comes to not getting enough sleep is the impact on our stress levels. There is not one person in this entire planet that I have ever met that has said to me, "I don't feel stress. I am not stressed whatsoever." Everyone is stressed. Everyone is waking through the night, and everyone is struggling with anxiety, restlessness, that endless to-do list, that inability to switch off, distractibility. Now, that is a direct consequence of lack of sleep. The research shows that when we are lacking sleep, even for one night, our stress hormone cortisol can increase by up to 37%. Now, that is going to lead to the exact experience of feeling restless, unable to switch off, wired but tired, feeling anxious without any given reason, simply because of lack of sleep.
Mhm.
Now, that is really, really important because a lot of people are trying to do things like meditate or, take like supplements or exercise to remedy stress. But sleep is the best antidote that we have. In terms of mental health as well, there's also research that shows that 80% of those with insomnia will struggle with anxiety symptoms. Also, in terms of not just anxiety, but mental health illnesses collectively, depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, et cetera, there is no one mental illness where sleep is normal. Basically,
Wow.
the neurotransmitters that govern sleep and neurotransmitters that govern mood are so inextricably linked that if your sleep is off, so will your mood. So will your ability to just think and function normal.
Absolutely. Cranky pants over here if I don't get enough sleep. And especially I think when I had young kids, I was horrendously tired all the time. And I wish I had the uh, idea back then to meditate during the day when I had young kids, because I feel like that's a really great tool to be able to do in between not getting enough sleep and not being able to go off and not off when you've got little ones to look after during the day and all into the night as well. All right, so when you're not sleeping consistently for long periods of time, is there a link to disease as well? Like, how else does that affect our bodies long term?
Yeah. So in terms of our immunity, it basically suppresses our immunity. So their research has found that when you are sleeping 6 hours rather than seven, just a 1 hour drop, your risk of catching a cold will increase by 4 times. Now, there's about a 20% increase in a pro-inflammatory immune agent called cytokines. Now, that leads to greater levels of inflammation. For your community who cares about skin health, this also is really important because, if you're breaking out and you're noticing that you've got a lot of redness and pimples and dry skin and just basically inflamed skin, or maybe that's in your gut health. Maybe you're just constantly bloated. Maybe you just feel like you're retaining a lot of water. Maybe you know how you feel when you're inflamed, right? So lack of sleep can increase inflammation by 20%. Now, in terms of our immunity also, there's a decline in the activity of our natural killer cells. Now, natural killer cells are really, really important because they basically hunt and destroy bacteria that will otherwise make us really sick. Now,
Mm.
their activity will decline by 70% when we lack sleep. And so this is why, so many people, if you, after a few nights, you start to feel really unwell, the body is crying out for sleep. And these are some of the symptoms of that.
Are there any other new tech options that we can use to aid us in maybe tracking our sleep or just getting good quality sleep?
100%.
Good.
So
Good to know.
yeah, yeah. So I'm really enjoying seeing all the new sleep trackers come out. Samsung Ring to the Whoop Band to 8 Sleep. Right. They all track sleep, and tracking sleep is super, super helpful. And they're getting more and more specific about how they can track sleep. And so that's really interesting what's happening there. 8 Sleep in itself is not just a sleep tracker, but that one's really, really interesting for menopausal women. So for anyone who isn't across it, 8 Sleep is a mattress topper. It will automatically adjust the mattress topper temperature based on your body temperature. So if you overheat, it cools you down. And that's really interesting for women going through that menopausal stage. And
And
it's
that
just really
is
interesting.
incredible.
And it's just
But
really interesting for anyone who is wanting to optimize sleep quality, because you can't adjust things through the night, but it uses AI to detect which sleep stage you're in and then mediate temperature according to that. So I'm really interested in that.
so
Uh,
that's called the 8 Sleep mattress topper,
yeah. So
and we can put a link to that in the bio for anyone listening who is interested in getting that.
I recently started sleeping on an adjustable base, which I wouldn't say isn't overly new, but this has been a game changer to be able to sleep at zero gravity. Zero gravity is how astronauts sleep in space. And it's basically the most natural position for sleep. It's like when you're in a neutral spine, it's kind of like a fetal position, right? And so by sleeping on an adjustable mattress, you can have that same experience. And personally, I sleep phenomenally well with my adjustable base.
Okay. All right. And so you've got a website that sort of links to a lot of different texts and obviously sleep advice. So if we're wanting to jump in further to this, we can. You speak all around Australia on panels and give such great information around maximizing our sleep. So I know today is such a beautiful insight into the world of navigating our sleep plan, because I think having a plan around sleep is truly going to be that thing that separates us from a crap sleep to an ongoingly good, consistent, strong sleep that makes us thrive, right? So
Absolutely.
we'll
It's
definitely link people to your website as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I would love to connect with anyone who wants to learn more. I have upcoming masterclasses
Oh,
and an
great.
upcoming app that is going to be, really helpful for anyone who really wants to master their sleep, and, alongside weekly challenges, things like that. So that's going to be really, really supportive and important. In terms of the products, probably best just to ask me. I don't necessarily have everything on the website, but more than happy to share any recommendations upon being asked, no problem. And yeah, in terms of having a plan, if you think about anything that's important to you, you always have a plan about how you're going to do it. In terms of when you're wanting to, have your spring reset and clean out your diet, then you make a plan. In terms of when you go to the gym, you make a plan. In terms of when you go to work, you make a plan. Sleep is exactly the same. create a strategy, create a plan, and results will happen. Results will follow. And in order to create the best results, just use the best advice.
Hmm. And I wanted to ask you a things you can't unhear moment around sleep. And I feel like that may have been it. But give us something that you heard during your career as a sleep expert, or perhaps when you were learning all of this knowledge, what something was that really stuck with you, a piece of advice that stuck with you around sleep and what you've taken with you from that.
The thing that I can't unhear, it applies to sleep, but it also applies to just my life in general. It's really simple. It's just enjoy the journey. Now, how I've applied that in my own life, I am definitely one person who, like many of your listeners, likes to be a high achiever, likes to get it done, likes to get results, right? And sometimes this has meant that I've burnt myself out time and time again. Sometimes mean I overwhelm myself. I put so much pressure on myself. It's just the end result becomes more important than how I feel and the journey. And it just echoes in the back of my head when I'm in that really stressed out state and I'm trying to get it all done. I'm like, wait a minute. At the end of the day, this is the journey and it's not about the destination, it's the journey, right? And I think
Mm,
that's actually really helpful to keep in mind with sleep as well, because you can stress yourself out thinking you need to have this, or you need to have this, or you need to have this, or, everything needs to be perfect. Actually, it doesn't.
mm.
By you detaching from that idea that it has to be perfect, you naturally feel more relaxed. And guess what helps you sleep better?
I love that so much. And it's so true. Perfect wisdom to end on, Olivia. Thank you so much for everything you've shared today. And everyone listening, I hope you get an amazing sleep tonight. I know I will be by following that 4-step plan and just implementing everything that you've shared today. Thank you so much. Thanks for listening to the show. What did you think? And what did you feel? Let us know by leaving me a message on the Things You Can't Unhear Instagram community page. And if you can, give us some ratings love on your favourite listening platform.